Today we got Dr. Doom stops holding
What's
back.
going on, guys? This is Rob, and I
Check it out.
love that Dr. Doom just has a gun. So we are back with One World Under Doom, and Dr. Doom stops pulling his punches, and it's amazing.
That's a
So
Dr.
in the
Doom we
last
need
video
in the
that we
movie,
did,
bruh.
you basically had the Avengers, X-Men, and the Fantastic Four launching an attack against Dr. Doom
I
at
need to
one
watch
time.
that, bruh.
The hope was that by using overwhelming force and Reed Richards basically combining his knowledge of magic and science together, they could finally take Doom out because he couldn't fight so many battles
She
at one
did the
time.
Dr. Doom we
Doom
need.
helped them to
Hopefully we get it.
understand the error of their ways, and he still is. Because what goes on is you switch over to Valeria Richards out in Arizona alongside Franklin and the children of Ben Grimm, who are
Mm.
kind of watching all this unfold. And Valeria's sort of been doing that in the background up to this point. In fact, she was kind of the one that was telling us and giving us the play-by-play and illustrating the fact that regardless of how it looked, Dr. Doom was winning because Dr. Doom was not giving the
He
fight his
cooking
complete
Wolverine
and
and
total
everyone.
attention. He wasn't giving it his all, right? And so when she's talking with Franklin, she just says, like, our parents need our help. And so when Franklin thinks she's joking or there's no way she can be serious, she's like, well, then tell me what it is that you're thinking. And so Franklin's like, you want to rewire the transporter so it sends you to Latveria, to Doom, right? And Valeria says, no. She's like, I just want to talk to him, not beam into a battlefield. I need to convince him to stand down because
Mm.
he listens to me, which is true. The connection between Valeria and Dr. Doom is an incredibly significant connection, right? Because Dr. Doom, while she is technically his niece, he almost kind of sees her as like a surrogate daughter in a lot
Mm.
of ways. There were
You
a
got
lot
that
of things that
special
he'll
love
do
for
for
her, bruh.
Valeria that he just won't do for anybody else. I mean, the girl is named after the woman that he was in love with when he was younger, if that tells you anything. And in fact, he was the reason why Susan was even able to give birth to Valeria in the first place with a happy, healthy baby. And so what ends up happening, of course, is that Valeria and Franklin and Ben's kids, they end up basically going down into like the basement, right, where all the tech stuff is. And Valeria's just kind of like, I need a way to get his attention. She can't just scream, right? She's like, I need a way to get his attention. And so a few minutes later, she's like, done. Because she's Valeria and she's a genius. And apparently in the span of like 2 or 3 minutes, she put together a hypersonic signal transmitter geared to resonate with Dr. Doom's armor, which is kind of
Damn, bruh,
amazing
just
when you
that
think
quick.
about it. That she's that smart.
Wild.
And so Franklin being intelligent enough to hold a conversation with Valeria, even if he's not necessarily on her level,
He's smarter
recognizes
than
that
Reed
what she's
Richards, I
basically
guess.
doing here is creating a system that will literally beam Morse code to Dr. Doom by vibrating his armor, which is pretty smart. That's really, really intelligent because that will get his attention. It's the equivalent of walking up to him and just shaking him really hard and saying, Uncle Doom, I need to talk to you, right? And so the question is, like, what do they say? Like, what's the code going to be? And
That's
it's
if he
just
even lets her, though.
VAL. Val. And so at that point, once they send the signal, nothing happens for a moment, and then immediately Valeria is whisked away to the mindscape. Now, here's an
What
important thing
the
to
hell?
understand, right? Throughout this entire
Entered another
conversation
realm?
between Valeria and Dr. Doom,
Something?
as short as it is, while they're having this conversation, Doom is still fighting a full contingent of the Avengers, X-Men, and Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
That's how capable he is. Not just in terms of the
That's
power that he
wild,
now
bro.
possesses, but in terms of how intelligent he is and how
Imagine
great he is
they
when it
need
comes
all
to
them
battle
teams
strategy. And so
just
he
to
just
stop
says,
you and
it
still
is
can't
good
do
to
it?
see you, child. You look well. I have received your message. Clever as always. You have Doom's attention. I wonder, Valeria, what you will do with it. And so she asks him, right, this mindscape, is it Sorcerer Supreme magic? And Doom says, some of it, right, the rest is me. And so she asks, right, you're still fighting them, mom and dad and all the rest. And he says, yes, Valeria, in the astral plane, your father proved to be slightly surprising. I suppose that's the right word. Irritating, perhaps. And Valeria actually thanks him, right? Thank you for
Bruh.
letting him live, Uncle Doom. And of course, Doom says, I
Whose
did it
side is
for
she
you.
on,
Now,
bruh?
here's one of the things to know about whenever it is that the two of them talk, because if you go back and you look at pretty much any conversation between Valeria and Dr. Doom, it always opens up in this same way. Pleasantries, right? Good to see you, Doom. Good to see you, Valeria. What are you doing, Doom? Well, I am doing this. I appreciate the fact that in doing all of this, you did this one thing. Showing
He's
appreciation
snapping
to
like
Doom.
Thanos
It's
and
not her
everything, bruh.
ingratiating herself to Doom. It's quite literally the respect the two of them have for each other. And Doom even goes on and he says, even as we speak, my Doombots are putting down other uprisings throughout the world. Combined with your father's attack on the astral plane and the ongoing battle in Latveria, simultaneously marshaling all fronts, is significant. Our time here must be short. But when the world comes to Castle Doomstat intent on destroying me, Doom always has time for his goddaughter. And so he says, you remain the only one
W
who
uncle,
holds
bro.
Doom's favor, Doom's
That's a good
respect,
uncle right
and
there.
Doom's love. But I repeat myself, what do you want, Valeria Richards? And she just says, all of this, right? You said this was for glory, but it's not anymore. Now it's just what? To prove that you were not wrong? To prove that you're still the best of us? Where does this end? And she just says, Uncle Doom, I want you to stop. And what's really interesting is his response, because it's not some kind of crazy, I'm never gonna stop. I'm not gonna stop until I've taken over the world. It's nothing like that, right? He's just like, I know that's what you want at present, but let me tell you where this ends, Valeria. It ends in victory. Everything has a cost. Everything. And everything truly great costs more. And so Valeria fires back and she says, when this began, you were trying to manufacture consent to win the hearts and minds and moral rights from the governed. But this is not that. This is coercion, and they will never accept it. But Dr. Doom kind of calls her out and is like, what are you talking about? Your entire race, the entirety of humanity, is predicated on coercion. He says, they will. The language you speak, the very language you think in, was coerced into your ancestors once. Now you call it your mother tongue. It takes time, Valeria, and that is all. That is true. Right, in the face of an overwhelming force that they cannot
They
possibly
got
overcome,
everybody
what
teaming up
initially starts
just to
off
fight
as
him.
resistance, guerrilla warfare tactics, right, trying to take that force down, will ultimately turn to bending the knee to that force, simply because of the fact that that force that's going against that group of people will be able to outlast those individuals' will to fight,
Hopefully they
because
can make the
war is
movie close to
exhausting, right?
this.
People get tired of it. They don't want to do it
That's what we
anymore,
want to
if for
see.
no other reason
Dr.
than
Doom
just sheer
dominate
exhaustion.
everyone.
They'll literally lay down their arms. Even the 100 Years' War came to an end eventually. And so Valeria just says, Uncle, please, right? It will not work. You cannot hold an entire population by force. And the response of Doom, the rhetorical, you can't, is true. But Doom can.
Bruh,
Doom will
that ego is
ensure that
crazy.
what happens today happens forever. And you forget that Doom is not without his supporters. It is only a violent minority who threaten the safety, security, and prosperity of everyone else. Watch, Valeria, and I will prove it to you. Be well. We will speak soon. And he literally teleports her back and then modifies his
He
armor
said
so that
enough
her
of that.
device will not work again. But there is truth to Doom's words, right? Despite all those regular people out there who rejected the idea that Dr. Doom was actually channeling his own magic and expanding his own magic, basically using the life force of his own Latverian citizens, despite the fact that they despised that, at the end of the day, they didn't take up arms against him. They never actually did anything to engage in conflict with Dr. Doom. Instead, it was all the superheroes jumping in, by the power of good guys, I am offended on your behalf. And like that's it, right? It was just superheroes fighting on behalf of the average person.
Girl.
But the average person chose not to do anything. And that seems to be what Dr. Doom is banking on, right? If they really hated me that bad, they would have tried to take me out on their own. They didn't, so they don't want to. And so at that point,
Probably
we
too
switch
scared to
back
do
to
it.
the actual Latverian conflict itself. And of course, Maria Hill being here says, okay, right, it was an impressive effort, but Mr. Fantastic's Astral Plane Gambit did not work. At least we managed to take Doom's dinosaur down in the interim, which is really the biggest loss out of all of this. And initially the question's asked by Susan, is Reed okay? And Maria's just like, yeah, he's fine. She's like, don't worry. Like, we're going to be giving Doom more pressing concerns to deal with. The X-Men are attacking en masse using power combinations we have not seen since Krakoa. But if we're going to win this,
That
we
won't be
still need
enough
to
to
hit
stop
Doom
Doom,
with
though.
something else. And so she says, Squirrel Girl, you're doing maneuver 99. As for the Invisible Woman and Iron Man, you're on maneuver 110. And of course, Tony Stark kind of cracks a joke, and Maria's like, dude, I never know if you're actually serious or not. But at the end of the day, Iron Man is, right? When he's just like, well, is that the one where I fire all my guns at once and then explode into space? Right? And Maria's just like, I can never tell if you actually know what's going on, Stark, or if you're just bluffing your way through everything and getting lucky. And Squirrel Girl's just kind of like, little of column A, little of column B. And so ultimately, of course, Iron Man and Susan Storm end up taking off. And so at that point, it comes down to an attack by the X-Men combined with Johnny Storm. And I never knew I needed to see this
Bro,
until I saw it. Because when Susan gets to
Storm
Johnny, he,
and
alongside
Torch
Storm,
together,
have created a fire hurricane.
just
It's
like
and
Marvel
he literally
Rivals,
tells Susan,
bro.
right? It's a
That's what
fire
we need to
hurricane
see.
courtesy of Storm. She
That would
brings
be
the weather,
crazy
and I bring the fire. And
if
he's
they
like,
do
I
it in a
call it
movie, bro.
a storm. It's kind of a silly name. But he's like, we've got Doom inside of a city-sized rock tumbler at 2,000 degrees. And so that's where Susan just tells Storm, right? Like maneuver 110. I bend all the energy Tony can produce into an infinite loop and then hit Doom with all of it at once. Cyclops,
Hold up, bro. They
if you
cooking,
care to
bro.
join. So quite literally, Susan Storm bends the optic beams of Cyclops. She controls his optic beams. So for those of you guys who
This
asked
might
that
work
question,
for
could
real,
Cyclops
though.
ever defeat the Fantastic Four? There's the answer to your question. The answer is no.
Mm.
It's pretty dope to see. And so in the midst of all of this, we switch back to Dr. Doom, and he says, my armor is immune to Iceman's temperature manipulation, so he falls back to attacking me indirectly with airborne ice, cooled nearly to absolute zero. And the Thing and Beast, as always, living up to his nom de plume, can think of nothing more effective to do than to throw rocks at their betters. And of course, now comes Dr. Storm, bending her allies' energy. But I am Sorcerer Supreme. I am Emperor of Earth. Even a week's worth of their powers hitting me in a femtosecond
Damn, it's like
would
that.
be insufficient. It is all so petty, so cheap, so intolerable.
I'm saying
I
we need
have
to get
perhaps
this in the
permitted
movies,
mutants
bro.
their powers for too long. It seems those who stand against me have forgotten something. Anything an X gene expresses can be unexpressed by one with mastery supreme of chaos magic. And just like that, he shuts down the powers of all the X-Men.
That's
Just shuts
wild,
them all
bro.
down, like in an
That's a lot of
instant.
power,
They are
too.
all powerless. Wolverine starts aging, his beard starts growing at
Mm.
this accelerated rate. Iceman's ice form literally starts to melt away. It's absolutely bonkers. And so Dr. Doom descends down onto everyone else and just says, you claimed you could hold me for a moment, Aurora Monroe. That moment appears to have passed. And where Susan Storm calls him a monster, he just says, not monster, Dr. Storm, Emperor. And the next time we meet, you will address me as such. What I have done to you mutants is temporary, unlike what the Scarlet Witch once did. When you leave this battlefield, your powers will return, where they will then be joined,
That's
I trust, by the
wild, bro.
knowledge that they only exist at Doom's pleasure,
Having the
which is
power
just
to do
one
that is
of the
insane,
hardest
bro.
lines that I think I've ever heard. Like that, right? He brings it all to a standstill. And so he just says, the powerless X-Men cannot prevent their forced retreat. Already, I am winning. And then her. Because out of nowhere, Squirrel Girl pops up. And you guys know
Bruh.
what happens when Squirrel Girl shows up, right?
Ain't no
Whenever
way,
Squirrel
bro.
Girl appears, historically in Marvel Comics, it means whoever she's fighting loses. It usually happens off panel, but
Ain't
they
no way they
lose.
make her win
But don't worry,
again, bro.
Ryan North doesn't do us dirty, because he just says, Doreen Green, the unbeatable Squirrel Girl, a world's army has fallen against me, and you expect your attack alone to succeed. You are a fool. And of course, that's where she just says, like, I don't think so, but we can talk about it later. And she's like, you know what else I am? Maneuver 99. That's the one where I'm a big old distraction from what's going on behind you right now by the mighty aspirants of the
What the
first
hell?
firmament. Because this leads to the other half, right? The other contingent. Because at that point, Dr. Doom says, I left Richards alive, barely. He should be unable to fight, unable to attempt to combine his science and sorcery. And then I see it. Every hero who can produce energy does so. And Susan bends it all toward the shattered hammer, Stormbreaker. And Reed Richards is magically imbuing all of their abilities into a single item. It is unprecedented. And so
We're
at
gonna
that
have to
moment,
take
Ben
him
Grimm
out for
reaches
Ben.
down and picks up Stormbreaker. Now, here's the funny thing about this. He says, would you look at that? Right, it turns out Aunt Petunia's favorite blushing blue-eyed nephew is worthy after all. And he's like, this is for messing with
That would be
me
funny,
and
bro.
my family, Vic. And I know you know what time it is, right? And literally takes the business to Dr. Doom and clocks this guy with this hammer and sends him
Get
flying.
cooked,
Right?
bruh.
Sends this dude flying, like, for
It
a
finally
moment.
did something to
Because at
him,
that point,
at least
Iron
for a
Man is
little
like,
bit.
did we win? Did we take him out? And Susan is just like, no. No, I don't think we did. And that's where Doom just says, you come at me with all the strength, trickery, and hope that you can muster, naively expressing them to carry the day. But the day won't. Heroes, they never could. For Doom answers you with his will. And he says, this is it, my ultimate victory. And to ensure it stands eternal against magic, against time travel,
That ain't
against
doing
trickery
nothing
of
to
all
him, bro.
kinds, I
If
do
that
what I
didn't
have
work,
always planned to do. And I
it's over
transform
with.
this moment,
Can't do
forging it
nothing else.
into a fixed point in time. Now, we'll talk about why that matters here in a second. But he says, what has happened will now always happen. It will not and cannot be changed. I bend time, bend causality itself to forevermore and indelibly
Or
inscribe
farming
my eternal
in front of them
achievement
too.
onto the very fabric of the cosmos. And then I use my assailant's own innovation against them. All my magics, all my powers, I feed into my armor. None but Doom could ever keep them in check. Now, here's an important thing to know, right? When Doom talks about literally locking this moment into the time stream so it can never be unlocked, magic probably has a part of that, but this is really more predicated on the nature of Dr. Doom's ability to time travel. One of the lesser known elements of Dr. Doom's lore is his time platform. A lot of people know he has it, but a lot of people don't know what makes it unique. Whenever Reed Richards travels back in time, when anybody else in the Marvel Universe travels back in time, Doctor Strange, right? If they alter something in the past, they create an alternate reality. With Dr. Doom's time platform and with his knowledge of time, only really Dr. Doom can go back in time, change a moment in the past, and change the present day because that moment has been changed. The time platform is the only device it can. It's why they used it in Age of Ultron, because it was the only way to go back and change the past without creating an alternate reality and leaving the present of the main Marvel Universe fixed, right? Unchanging. And so it's a cool bit of history, right? Because Dr. Doom, in saying all of this, says, of course, I don't want to hold my powers in. I cease to even make the attempt. He says, and my armor explodes into millions of magic-infused shards that saturate the battlefield. It turns a loss into a draw, into a win. It is everything I have, and it is spectacular. Before the eyes and cameras of a planet,
He just
I
talk any
defeat
kind of way to
everyone.
them, bro.
Every shard
They can't
finds
do
its
nothing to
target,
him.
with power enough to bring these enhanced heroes to the edge of death, but to just barely and painfully survive. They tear through their armor, through their flesh, and through their bones. I've never been more magnificent. It is perfect. All see Doom at his most
Getting
glorious,
rid of
creating an
all of
image
them,
that they will
and he's
carry
not even
with them
trying.
forever. And he says, without armor, my face is exposed, but I still have enough magic to hide it from the same world that I address. And he says, witness how these poor souls live still, because today, Doom permits it. Doom is wisdom, yes, and Doom is strength, but Doom is also mercy, and even the dullest of animals understand pain. Thus, Doom has hurt these misguided heroes as no one else could, grievously. I give myself a restored mask, a new beginning. And he says, in fact, these creatures have learned, should they ever resume their attack, Doom will not be this charitable again, and each will be forced to
Bruh.
make reparations. But then suddenly, he's interrupted, because there was someone on the
Unk.
battlefield that he wasn't expecting, and they address
Valeria
him
pulled
as
up.
uncle. And he turns around and he just says, who dares? And then realize what's happened. Because in this blind assault on the entirety of
Oh
the Civil
damn, he
War
got her
community,
too?
Dr. Doom failed to realize Valeria had pulled
Damn.
into the battlefield. And Victor Von Doom has unintentionally killed his niece.
Oh
With that being said,
man.
guys, we're going to bring this to an end, because the real question you
Hey
have to
bro,
ask
we
here
need the rest
is,
of
now that his
this.
sister is dead, what's Franklin going to do? What
You gotta
happens when
crash out,
Franklin
bro.
flips his shit? Because
That
I am
is
excited to
wild,
find out,
bro.
man. Ryan North, please don't let us down.
I'm
Please
saying
don't
he's
let us
cooking
down.
right here,
Anyway, guys, we're
bro.
gonna bring this to an end. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this.
Yeah, but that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.